You're in a good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Let's talk today about confusing relationships, why they're so confusing, and what's the reason for it. Many of us are in confusing relationships where there's anxiety, there's stress, but yet it almost feels like addictive. And why is it addictive? Why can we not leave? Why is it that we're kind of stuck in this relationship, even though there's a lot of not so good parts? But there seems to be a component that keeps bringing us back in, keeps us there on a constant basis. I want to talk about crumbs today versus validation and when we need to put the brakes on. You've heard the word crumbs. What does crumbs mean? What does it mean? What does it mean to be crumbed? You know, if you have a loaf of bread and you have that loaf of bread, you buy it at the store. It's a full loaf of bread. It's a whole loaf of bread, right? It's a whole loaf. But what if you went into that store and instead of buying that loaf of bread, in that bag or that sack, instead of that, there's just crumbs. There's just a few little pieces of crumbs there, maybe one piece of bread left in the bag. How would you feel about that? Well, most of us aren't going to the store and buying a bag of crumbs, but many of us are in relationships that is exactly what we're experiencing. In the beginning, we got the whole loaf of bread. In the beginning, it was like going to the store every day, having a whole loaf of bread and never having to worry about it. But eventually it became small little crumbs. Now, the interesting part is over time, when you start getting crumbs, not the loaf, not even the pieces of bread, you begin to higher value those crumbs because that's all you're getting. So you put them on a pedestal, even though before that wouldn't have been the case. Before you would have said, this is crazy, especially beginning in the relationship. Why am I just getting these little nuggets of interaction or attention? And see, that's where the problem lies with a confusing relationship is in the beginning, we got the full loaf of bread, AKA love bombing. And then over a period of time, that stopped. It stopped almost immediately after a few months. For some of you, a few weeks. For some of you, even a year. You got to do a whole year of love bombing, but that's very few and far between. So eventually you start getting these little crumbs, these little nuggets of attention, and they become slower and slower, and they're kind of like dulled out to you, a little chump change here, a little chump change there. And at first it's annoying or discombobulating, but eventually you begin to hold on to those crumbs for dear life. You begin to hold on to those crumbs and see those crumbs as value. Now, the problem is because we got the loaf of bread, the whole loaf for so long, and we got so used to that, we kind of attached our validation and our self-worth to that loaf of bread that other person was giving us. The other person went to the store providing us this bread. Okay, this is a euphemism. This is a concept, provided the bread, AKA attention. And you started strapping and connecting your value, your personal value, who you are, and you started like tethering yourself to this loaf of bread and this person. And then eventually the bread goes away, and now you're just getting that little cellophane bag, the cellophane bag of just these little crumbs, and you're holding on to them like they're gold. And then eventually you don't get some of those. So there's sometimes in the relationship where they literally maybe go quiet. Maybe they're not communicating with you. Maybe they're actually mean or angry with you, making fun of you, putting you down, even sometimes ghosting you. Maybe you have something planned and you're looking forward to it. You get to the restaurant, there's nobody there. You try to call them, they don't respond. Perhaps you text them and you see that they've received it, they've read it, but they're not communicating with you. And then you go days wondering what happened. What did I do? Because your value is so wrapped up with that person that now you're concerned because you can't see the forest through the trees. You're going through the motions of your life, in the shower, thinking about them, in bed, can't sleep. Some of you are overeating. Some of you aren't eating at all. When is the next time I'm going to get a crumb? And the interesting part of it is you don't realize it's a crumb. You're just waiting for that call, just that lifeline text message. Oh God, Will they just text me? Maybe they'll text me today. Maybe they'll call me. And so you sit there and wait, shutting out the rest of the world. If you're going to work, you're having to go to work, you're frustrated. All you can do is wonder, where are they? Where did they go? What happened to them? And then eventually they pop up. And usually they pop up when you've already made plans to do something because you were so overwhelmed with grief and fear, and you've been beaten down mentally and emotionally, and you feel as though you have no self value, no self worth. And so you reach out to a friend or a lifeline and you make a time to get coffee or to meet up for lunch. And right when you're heading that way, this person texts you, "Hey, can I see you right now?" And so you start canceling out everybody in your group because you rush to meet that person to get that crumb of validation. So this is interesting. I want to discuss the crumbing and what does it feel like? And how do we deal with this type of situation? And how do we overcome being strapped to these crumbs, looking for personal validation and acceptance? Because what's happened is these crumbs have been our personal validation and acceptance. They have turned into our entire value. We have lost our value. And I don't know if we ever had it. If we could strap ourselves to and tether ourselves to someone else's crumbs, maybe we never had personal value of our own ever. I don't know. And this is something that we need to think about. And so when we look at this concept, we need to figure that out. So, how do we disconnect from that? And how do we first see it as crumbs? And I want you to analyze your relationship accurately, to understand it, to see what is crumbs and what is real, honest love versus what is real, honest attention. And I think you'll see that it's very different. I think in the beginning, many of you will say, well, I just wish we could go back to the way it was before because we actually feel like the person was different. It's just the person never changed. They just went back to being who they are. Their reality is them now, not who they were before. And that's why it's so strange. That's why it's so mind boggling because you got so inundated in the beginning of this relationship thinking that this is the way it was, this is the way it is, this is all this good stuff, and this is the way the relationship will be. But that's just not true. That is the version of them that they entered the relationship with you. That is the version of them that they were selling you to have a relationship with you. That's all it was. And I need you to get that through your head because that's one of the hardest things to get through your head because you're constantly trying to get back to the beginning, and the beginning was not real. The beginning was false. The beginning was fake. The beginning was a version of them to get you to feel a certain way, to get you to drop your guard, to move very quickly into a relationship, and to be able to go through that process. And that's kind of the situation that we have here is that when you go through that process, you don't realize that. You think that this person is that version of them is reality. That version that you met is amazing. There's all this love bombing, all this attention. Many of you talk about having great sex, this great relationship, all this stuff, and everything's good for whatever time that is. And then things start changing and dwindling. And through the process, you begin to not only feel bad and wonder when it's going to come back, but you lose your identity in the process because you're thinking, what did I do wrong to get this person to treat me like this? What did I do wrong to get this person to not continue to be how they are with me? What did I do wrong to lose this attention? And so you begin to morph and change into somebody that you're not. And see, this becomes really radically a big problem. It's like going into a place and not being yourself. It doesn't make any sense because there's going to be people that like you for being you, people that don't like you for not being you. Every construct is possible. So just go in being yourself in any relationship. And if they don't like you for who you are, hey, they don't like you for who you are. If they don't want you in the club, great, get out of the club. And it's hard to recognize those things because you see clubs or organizations or friend groups very differently than you see a romantic relationship. If they don't love you for you, then they don't love you for you. Move on. But that is very, very, Very hard to see. Very hard to see. And so, how do you process that? How do you deal with that? And these are the things that I want you to begin to think about. These are the concepts that I want you to think about because the beginning was not true. The love bombing was a manipulative tactic. Now, the crumbs are to see how little will you take and continue in the relationship. How little will you take and continue to be in this relationship? That is key. And the problem is many of us don't think that way. So we don't know that that's the other side of the coin here. We're just saying, "Oh, I just want that person around and I really like them and I think about them all the time and I just want to spend time with them even if it's for an hour, whatever I can get. I just want some. I want some so bad." And it's a very addictive quality, right? It's like a line of cocaine or some heroin or something like that. It's very addictive. You'll take whatever you can get, whatever the dealer has. "Oh, you only have that? Okay, well, I'll just get that for right now, and you just let me know when you get more in, okay?" It's not like, "Well, that kinda sucks. Like, that's all I'm getting here, and this is it? I mean, I'm giving you all this, and you're giving me that." Now, it's different if you're also crumbing this person back, but I'm saying many of you that are listening to my podcast that follow the YouTube channel, Life Coach Ashley Burgess, that have followed the blogs and the videos and everything for years, you're not coming from that camp. You're coming from the camp of, "Hey, I'm a good person. I'm wanting to meet, somebody that I can be with in my life, and I treat them very well, and I treat them with respect." And I would like the same thing back. And at first, I was getting all this attention. I was like, "Wow, love is possible." And now I'm not. And now I'm not. And so I need you to see the difference. So from the love bombing, it wasn't reality. I need you to recognize that the beginning was not them. I need you to see how the current situation, if they're being mean and combative and argumentative or avoidant, that is truly who they are, and accept that reality. So you're finally in the relationship with the real person now, not the representative. Okay, first off. Second, you had the loaf of bread and you were making toast every day. We were having a blast. You're making toast, heck, I don't know, maybe it was pita bread, who knows, whatever you were having, whatever it was, you were having a good time and you were really happy about that bread. Now we don't have that bread anymore. We have tiny little crumbs of one piece of little bread and we get it a little bit here and there. And I want you to realize how you take that little piece of bread and you put it up on that pedestal and you go, "Wow, look, I got this little piece. Yeah, I'm going to hold that up. I'm not going to eat it. I'm just going to look at it because it's so great. It's so amazing." And I want you to realize how often in other relationships you've been mistreated or haven't gotten attention and you walked away from those relationships. And this relationship's not any better. It's actually probably a lot worse. But it's become addictive because, see, at first they gave you the whole loaf. It's like the drug dealer, right? "Oh, the first time is free. Even the second and third time is free. But now I'm gonna give you half. Now I'm gonna give you a third. Now I'm gonna give you a half of a half of a half. Now I'm gonna give you 1/15 of it. Now I'm not gonna give you anything. Now I'm gonna not give you anything. I'm gonna also cut you off for a period of time, and then I'm gonna come back. Or I might just distance myself for a while. Or I might ghost you." And I know that some people have gone through ghosting for periods of time that were longer than several months. And then somebody shows back up and they're like, "Oh, hey, just everything's fine." And I know that the extreme, some of you don't say anything because you're just happy to hear from this person. "Oh God, they've resurrected, they've come back. Maybe we can have this relationship we've always wanted." But I want you to realize every time we take them back, you're losing a part of yourself because what you've done is you've attached your value and your self-worth onto the entire breadcrumbing attention that they are or not giving you. So when they're not giving you attention, you have no value. When they are giving you attention, you have value. Do you see how this is working against you? This is not a good thing. This is working completely against you, tearing you down. And so I need you to begin to see the truth here. And I need you to also see the cycle pattern of how they do things. Some of them, I believe, know exactly what they're doing. Some of them know half of what they're doing. And some of them are just all over the map and really don't care. And some of them might be in relationships with other people who are doing this to them as well. And you just don't know about the other person. It's very interesting because there's a lot of interesting webs that people have weaved. And so they might be, if they're ghosting you, maybe with somebody else. And I'll tell you one thing, if somebody is a true narcissistic person, that probably is very true. Or if they're a fear of abandonment or fear of being alone, for sure. But how do you pull back? And I know that some of you say, well, I'm in this relationship, and when I call the person out or I say something, they get very defensive or angry or turn it around on me. And that's true. They have to, because remember, they want to remain the victim. They don't want to take responsibility for their actions. Because if they do, then they would have to change it. It's kind of like the concept of somebody that's insane. If they're insane, they can't really be prosecuted at the same level because they didn't know what they were doing, right? You could plead insanity, but a lot of times, some people do, but a lot of times people just manipulate and gaslight to a degree to make you feel like you're losing it, to change the narrative of what's really happening. And so I need you to step back because I believe that many of your relationships, if you're listening to this podcast, whether it's a past relationship or a current relationship, somebody is changing the narrative. Somebody has changed the narrative. And many times we go along with that narrative because we forget things. We forget how things happen. We want to believe a different reality. We want to believe a different truth. And so begin to see these realities and these patterns. And then I need you to recognize more often, how are you and when are you upset? When are you sad? Many of you are sad more than happy. You're sad more than happy. It's beginning to really affect you mentally and emotionally throughout your life. It's affecting every aspect of your life. And honestly, this relationship that you're holding on to is actually pulling you down, and you are underwater and you're drowning. And it's time to come up to the surface of the water to see the situation as it is and to begin to accurately understand how are you going to move forward with it. And the only way to move forward out of these relationships is to look at the truth. If you're not looking at the truth, you don't have options. If you're not looking at the truth, you're believing the game. If you're not looking at the truth, we all have a problem because you are gaming yourself into a situation that holds no value for you. And if anything, is causing you pain and suffering. And so I need you to remember there was a vision of this person. Usually, the beginning of the relationship, this person looked amazing. They were great on paper. They said everything. They did everything. You had a version of them that you put on the pedestal, whether it was this fairy tale that you were going to live together forever, or you were going to have all these kids, or you were going to be this power couple, or whatever the version is for you. And I need you to realize that you played a part in this narrative as well, because you created this reality based on this attention and then lost yourself in the shuffle. And so you have to begin to find your own value. You have to begin to find your own value separate from this relationship. Because remember, when we find value in other people, the problem with that is if the other person goes away, then what happens to our value? Bingo. That's it. I mean, we have to find value within ourselves separate from every relationship, because remember, relationships are exterior type things. We can love people and care about them, live with them, marry them, have kids with them. It's all great. It's all fun, great, wonderful. But there's a limitation to how much you want to give of your value to that person. Because we have to have boundaries. And in these relationships, we have no boundaries. If you're accepting crumbs, you have no boundaries. You've gotten to the point of begging to some degree for this person to see you. And the more that we beg, and I'm not saying you're physically begging, oh, please, please, no, but not saying, hey, where were you for 3 days? Or, hey, this isn't working for me. This isn't working for me. Your attitude when I come home and the passive aggressive behavior and the silent treatment, or you abusing the credit cards and then getting angry with me. This isn't working for me anymore. I don't need to be married at this expense, or I don't need to be in this relationship at this expense. It's time for me to find myself. And I advocate this is the work that you want to do because the longer you stay in these toxic relationships, this toxicity, because remember, you're fueling it too. This person wouldn't be able to do this if you weren't accepting the behavior. Now, they might not change. It's not like, okay, if you stopped accepting the behavior, and maybe that's the case, you put down some boundaries, you tell them you're not taking this, you move out, you do whatever, say you need to go to therapy or whatever, and we'll figure it out. And if not, we're moving on. I'm tired of this. That could be the answer. Or it could be a wake up call to move on in your life. But remember, we have to learn the value within ourselves, or this is going to continue to happen. If we don't learn our value, we're just going to go into another relationship similar to this relationship. And it could be worse. I've worked with clients where we begin to work and they go, oh, well, I got past this. And now I'm in this relationship and I wanted to have a session with you and start working with you. And we begin to find over time that we've just found someone else with the same type of cluster B or the same dynamic, the selfishness or the same victim reality. But it's even worse than it was before because we didn't do the work we needed to do now. And so if you're in the situation and you're sitting there, you're waking up at night, this person's not calling you, or you're waking up at night because you can't communicate with this person, or you're walking around aimlessly. I mean, I had a client the other day said that they walked into a screen door because they were so busy in thought about how upset they were about this relationship that they weren't even paying attention to where they were walking. I've had a client run into the back of a car before because they weren't paying attention because we're up in our mind thinking about this problematic situation that is not bettering our life. And the only way to better our life is to accurately see it. Go to the beginning, see what happened. Think about it. Think about the love bombing. Think about the narrative that you created about your life with this person. Look at the loaf of bread. Remember when you were getting loaves. Now look at the loaf now. There is no loaf. Now see the part that you're playing in the dynamic. Step back and look from, not all emotions. Remember, emotions can't solve our issues. We can get emotionally right when we actually act on our best and highest self. And this is where I want us to be at. And this is what I help clients do every single day of my life. I help clients see this, understand it, get right with it, either augment the relationship where it works for them or move on completely. And then getting right with themselves. So there's not any, one size fits all. There's some differences here. But again, we're sitting in reality when we're dealing with this. We're sitting in reality. We're working with reality. We're overcoming our mental non-necessary needs. And we're also gaining the value within ourselves. Because when we have value in ourselves, when people do this crumbing, we don't fall for it. When we have value in ourselves, when people try to love bomb us, we see it. We don't love it and eat it up. We go, this seems a little odd here. It's a little too much attention. You're like on me like white on rice. This is a lot going on here. And if we're looking for attention and that makes us feel good, we're going to fall trap into the situation and prolong our pain throughout another relationship. And so if you're falling into this trap, I need you to think about this. This is something that we have to change. We have to turn back the hands of time. Turn the ship around. We have to work through these situations. We have to see it for what it is, like really, really see it and know it. Not just see it, but know it. And then we need to make real action. Okay, this behavior is not acceptable. If I'm being ghosted, calling it out, even if I might not hear from this person, if I don't like the attitude, having a conversation. If they're not going to communicate properly, continuing to have this conversation. If they don't, then removing myself from the situation and creating real change. Because again, remember, ultimatums really don't work because what's happened is if you are going down the ultimatums and you're not following up with it and you're not actually doing it, they know that this is just talk. And again, the more we just talk with no real plan, the more this person doesn't respect us at all anyway. And so there's no respect. And so when somebody doesn't respect you, they'll do whatever they want to do with you. And my theory is I'd rather be respected than coddled. I would rather be feared and respected than acting like I'm in love with somebody and being abused. Because you don't have to be physically abused, but remember, it's like the crumbing is kind of abuse because it's like I'm dumbing down to the least common denominator of the situation. I'm literally holding you on a hook. I'm out fishing. I've hooked you And I'm too busy over here at the beach barbecue, and I've got you on this hook in the sand for the last, how many hours, days, weeks, months, years. And I'm doing something else right now that's more important to me, or I don't really care that much about the relationship. And now I've hooked you up. I've hooked you, and you can't get out of it because you're still in your mind about the concept. Because if you really saw the truth versus your mind's thought, it's a totally different thing. Like I have clients, and this is what I want to leave you with today in this podcast. I've had clients that send me pictures. They think they're with the most gorgeous man or most gorgeous woman. And I look at these photos. I'm like, who the heck is this? But in their mind, they've created this reality. It's not true. I can see the truth because I'm not in the relationship. And so it's about putting together the pieces and realizing, hey, my narrative is not true. The thoughts that I had about the relationship are not true. And now let me see it for truth. And before you jump out of it, I want you to see it for true for at least several weeks, if not a month, and maybe even a couple of months. Get in it deep, see it for what it is, see what they're doing to you, see the feelings, experience the situation, get into it, and really see what you're dealing with so that you feel happy, or not even happy is not a good word. You feel resolve by making the changes you need to make. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, put in Life Coach Ashley Burgess. We're almost at 200,000 subscribers. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. And also comment if you have some thoughts on some of those videos. If you'd like to reach out to me, or you want to connect with me or ask me a question, go to ashleyburgess.com. Click on that contact page and you can get a hold of me. And if you would like to set up a coaching session, you can do that by going to the website as well, ashleyburgess.com, clicking on coaching section, the coaching section page, coaching's page, and you can set up something right there immediately. Please share this with your friends and family, anybody that needs to hear this message. And if it's you that needs to hear this message, listening to this podcast several times while you're working out or driving or just walking or just sitting will be helpful. But it's something to listen to multiple times to really engage your mind and your heart into what needs to be done. Hey, thanks for listening all the way. And by the way, if you have listened all the way through, one little nugget. You're very smart, you're very intelligent, but the way that you were raised is what has gotten you into this type of relationship. It's not because you're stupid. It's because you were raised in a dynamic that this is very similar to. Okay. Live your true life. I will see you soon, and looking forward to seeing you here in the next podcast. Much love.